How you doing, Martin Lopez with the Curiosity Theory? Let me kind of get my notes up really quick. Super excited to be on again with you. For now on, I'm going to be going on Tuesday nights. I was going on Monday nights, but I decided to switch it up and do Tuesday nights. Just got some advice from some friends, and they said, "Hey, Tuesday nights are going to be a better day to do your show." So here we go, Tuesday nights here. I'm real curious. I'm real curious about the truth, and lately I've been talking to a lot of people, and a lot of people are asking questions, and in the questions and the conversations I have, I find that the people I talk to are always looking for answers. People come to me, because of my business, because of the mortgage business, they look for answers. Also, people will look for answers in just personal conversations. I don't know if you know me. I don't like having casual conversations. I usually like to go deep and talk about something that's worth talking about. Talk about something that's really important to the person I'm talking about, personal stuff, spiritual stuff, that kind of stuff. So what I notice is that people are trying to understand and be able to understand what they see and what they hear. Like they'll see something and it's got to make sense to them, or they hear something, they're trying to make sense. And that's what our whole lives are all about, and trying to understand like how our feelings, work in and out of the things we see and the things we want and our needs. And I find people have a lot of questions of the heart, social and political questions right now, a lot of those. And lately, a lot of people are having questions around their existence because a lot of people are real scared because of the whole COVID thing, and of course, man, if you get that, that's not going to be good for you. So, the thing that I notice is that questions, do they ever end? Are we ever done asking questions? Think about a child. Children just keep asking questions over and over. They don't stop. They're relentless. They just keep asking questions. I know my kids did, but I grew up. I didn't stop asking questions. I keep asking questions. So, like, how do we know what the truth is? How do we know the truth? We hear something, right? We see something, we feel something. How do we know what's true and what's not true? And like, what methods do we use to discover the truth? Like, how do we seek the truth? How do we discover the truth? How do we come to our conclusions about what's true and what's not true? Well, recently, last week, I posted on my Facebook page the question. I said, when it comes to truth, what influences you and others? And I had like 70 or 80 responses. So, just dozens of people interacting, asking me questions, asking each other questions. There was a lot of questions I even deleted because I felt that they kind of went over the line, and I didn't want people to fight. I wanted it to be a forum where people could talk to each other and they could feel good about the conversation. They could feel good about the interaction, and they don't have to, run and hide and feel like they're being attacked. And that's a tough thing too, because when you're sharing something that's personal for you, like the truth, it's easy to attack people like that because it's a vulnerable state. So I'm just going to go over a few of the, maybe a little more than a few, probably like 15 or 20 of the different things that people said. And what I've done is I'm pulling out some of the important stuff. So if you're on and you go back and look at your post, what you put, what you posted, your response, I'm not necessarily saying the entire response. And the reason why is sometimes the way people write and the way you read is two different things. So I wanted to pull like what I felt was the guts of what you were saying. And by all means, if there's something else that I missed about what you were saying, please, by all means, comment here below. Matter of fact, comment. Let me know where you're from. Like, let me know where you're listening from. And any kind of questions, anything you want to say, please let me know. And if you want to jump on, and actually ask questions or have a point that you'd like to make, just send me a private message and I'll try to get you on. Okay. So, one of the questions that I had, the first guy that posted is a really, really good friend of mine, a guy named Joshua T. Berglund. I know a lot of you guys know him. Great guy. What he said was, how would anything influence you one way or another? And that's not all he said, but I thought about that. Like, how would one thing influence you one way or another? That's a really powerful thing. Lori Jean, who I went to, I think I've known her since junior high school. She said facts. Her thing was facts. Facts are what influenced me in the truth. Jordan Michael, he said God's word and that alone. And then I responded, Jordan Michael, is there anything else? And he said, Facts also, but that's my foundation. So, even when we answer the call, when we answer questions, as we start to go into conversation, we have to clarify what we mean by different things. The whole idea of the curiosity theory is to dance with that, is to be able to be empathetic with people responding the way that they respond, because everybody responds differently, because they all have their own background, they all have their own language, they have their own way of phrasing things. And that could be one way if you're from one country, a different way if you're from a different country, and like literally neighborhoods. I live in San Diego. I've lived in San Diego my whole life. People in different neighborhoods talk differently than I do. It's just you have your own way of grooving, right? And then my kids groove one way and I groove a different way, right? Veronica Mendez, a good friend of mine, she's also been on the show a couple times, as well as Joshua. She said, "Truth just is." And then she said, "It will always set us free." So it's cool. That's something she's saying. Dustin Murdoch, who wrote a big response, but what I pulled out of Dustin's responses, he said, "The truth is and always will be influential by everything and everyone in one direction or another." Pretty cool answer, right? Glenn Prado, I've known Glenn I've known him since elementary school. Glenn Prado said, "The truth is not black or white." Great answer. Thank you very much. Lome, she said, she had a really long answer, but I wanted to pull just a little bit out. She said, "Case studies, data, both sides showing the advantages and disadvantages without framing information in a biased manner. Even data," she went on to say, "even data can be manipulated to be specific truth angle that someone wants to propagate, that somebody wants to spread." So what she's saying is that there's data, there's case study, there's hard information, and both sides, there's showing the advantages of something. So if I'm saying this is the data that I have, and let me push the data, let me say why this data is important, and then what if I'm doing is I'm trying to spread the word based on the truth that I'm saying. So it was a really, really powerful answer. Thanks, Lame. Audrey Lolis, she said, "There is truth, as in facts or circumstances outside of us. And then there's our own truth, which is how we experience the world." Very, very cool answer. Thank you. She said, this is what influences our own truth and our thoughts and the stories about the facts. So she was talking about how the circumstances that are outside of us actually have an influence on what's true for us. I like that answer. It's really cool. Barbara Ham, she said, "This is a hard question." And I got that from a lot of people that were private messaging me. "Can you be more clear on the question?" And so I did that. I did some work on that. But she said, "How can you really get to the truth? Everyone's truth is interpreted by their own perspectives." And I think that's really, really cool. Jessica Shannon said, "I don't know what influences others, but what influences me is taking in information from multiple angles." Cool. Not everything, but enough to get a sense and connecting my own dots from there. So that's a great way. I see that's the way most people do it, is they take in information wherever it comes from, and then they don't take everything in, but just enough to get a sense of their truth, and then connect it for themselves, connect the dots for themselves. Great answer. Bill Sturley, and he's going to be on the show tonight, and he said, "The truth can be viewed through three windows." And I want to make sure that I have a conversation with him about that. I'd like to know what the three windows he's talking about are. Renee MacGyver, amazing real estate agent, good friend of mine, she said, "This is probably the most vulnerable response on the whole thread." She said, "When I was young, I wasn't always truthful, but with age, I am more transparent and it's freeing. I think I was afraid of being judged, and now I don't care about that." Very, 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 very vulnerable, very, very true answer. I really appreciate that, Renee. Thanks a lot. Laura Preble, she is amazing. She's a teacher. I think she might be retired now. She's an amazing singer. Her husband used to be my sax instructor, one of the best saxophonists in San Diego. She said, facts that are provable and come from legit sources. So if you can prove a fact for her and it comes from a legit source, then it's true for her. Lauren Rice, a good friend of mine also, she said the only real influence in truth is our willingness to be open to others' versions of it. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Lola said, there's no absolute truth. Most things are just different perspectives. Very, very cool. And Larry Sideropoulos, who's a good friend of mine, he's an attorney, and I had posted some stuff, and he is like saying, hey, that's not true, that's not true. Where kind of this whole thing really came about was through Larry and our interactions that were very respectful. I want to say that because oftentimes people that have different versions of what they want to say are not necessarily that respectful, and especially on Facebook, especially on social media, people are willing to, throw stones and shoot and stick people like daggers and hide behind and I know that's a judgment, but hide behind the defenses of social media. Larry said science that is vetted by credible individuals. Cool. That has been tested. He also said usually individuals that have proven to be trustworthy, that makes sense, right? And have displayed trustworthiness through their actions over a long period of time. So he's looking at the character of a person and the character. Is this person's character such that I'm willing to take what they say to me and then call that the truth, and they would be somebody that's worthy of listening to and trusting? It's all about trust, right? It really is all about trust. So he also said individuals that have knowledge or training in that area, I'm being told about. So it's a very complex answer, and it has a lot of really cool, strong, very, very strong parts to it. Also, I look at motive, which I think is really, really important. I just look at the motive of the person that's telling me the facts. So tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to talk like nobody's watching. We're going to have a conversation with a few people like nobody's watching while you guys are actually watching. And the idea is to discover the truth and I'm real curious about the truth. Like, what is the truth, and how do different individuals arrive at what the truth is? We had Tammy Thrasher was going to be on, and another good friend of mine, Bill Sturley, were going to be on, and they're not here. But I'll tell you something. I can hang with my brother from another mother, Willman Morcillo. These are the kind of conversations we are always having. So I'm going to bring Willman on, and we're just gonna wrap it up. What's up, dude? How are you?
Let me get this camera straight.
Yeah,
Hold on, there you are. More central. I think I'm more central. There we go, right there. Yeah, what a great topic.
Yeah, especially now,
huh? Yeah, I think that anything that shakes us from our day-to-day activities and our automated way of living is gonna force us to be reflective about things, you know. And I think, well, my experience of the truth is that there's a relative truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like you and I can play basketball, and I can have one experience of it, and you can have another experience of it, and then we can walk away, maybe having an argument about what really happened,
Mm-hmm.
trying to enforce that point of view as the truth instead of just saying, "Oh, I had one experience, you had another one." You know, that's the relative truth that actually most of us will go through arguing with somebody else about. And the real truth is we played basketball.
And then you can make up all kinds of truths on that. Tammy, real quick, Tammy, I sent you a link. I sent you a text with the link. So all you gotta do is go in there, and the links to get onto the show is in there. So I'm glad you're here, but I'd love to have you here in this part if you can. So like I'm thinking, like, if you just take the idea of like just playing in a game, the truth could be, you're a cheater, you cheated, you did this, you did that, and that's based on like how you're feeling. You could, well, I'm a little frustrated with playing with you, and I can change the truth, and I think that happens if I don't like the result or the outcome. Yeah, or I don't like how it's being played out. Yeah, I have a good friend that she says that she plays this game with her mom, and she says she said that her mom keeps calling her a cheater.
Her mom always
because
cheats.
what's that?
Her mom always cheats.
No, her mother doesn't cheat, but she's real good at the game. And so her mother says, you're a cheater because she wins every game, So like, it's like, I'm not a cheater. The truth is you're a sore loser. It's all perspective, right? But we'll die. We'll die for our truth, right?
Well, it's just, I think when you say the truth, people expect there to be one absolution, just one. That's it. And you can't really argue the truth. Like a human being has to eat, right? Like that's a truth.
Yeah.
And human beings need water and oxygen, and those are truths. But how much we need, or how many, or what kind of nutrients we need, I mean, the fact that we have those basic frameworks, I think that's the truth. But just because I eat more asparagus than you doesn't mean that I'm healthier than you. It's not a truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But we'll speak about that. Like if you talk to somebody that's maybe, like,
is Tammy in an old like Batman show or something? Because she's totally. You know what they used to do in the old Batman shows? Like every time there was like a crooked like character, the floor was slanted. or the roof was slanted, so it always indicated their level of integrity, how straight the floor was.
Okay, I'm telling you the truth, really.
So since we're having a conversation about the truth, I guess she wants to pretend to be Spider-Girl.
That's right.
Yeah.
Somebody's
got to be a superhero.
Oh, hey.
Tammy?
I'm awesome. Sorry about that. I was driving on the way down here and didn't see I saw there was a text, but I wasn't reading it. So
no problem. It's great to have you. This is a real good friend of mine, Willman. Willman, this is a great friend of mine, Tammy. She's awesome.
Just a minute. Oh, hey, Tommy. No.
I wasn't trying to be sideways. I'm using my phone because I was going to the text. I can switch to my computer, but we're here. So
you're fine. No, you're good. You're good. You're fine.
Am I straight
I was just
now?
having a little fun with it. No, you're sideways now.
Am I sideways now? Now
Yeah, you're upside down.
You're giving me grief.
I'm getting a headache.
Am I? Is this
You're
good?
perfect. You're great. You're awesome.
I'm
You're
perfect. Well, I'm working on that one.
That's it. So Dustin Murdoch said, define the truth if you would. And the thing is, Dustin, I would say that is I can't define the truth. It's like, that's kind of a loaded question, because I can't tell you how many times I've said things, Dustin, in my life that I felt was absolutely the truth. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I guess I'm wrong on that. I think that for me, this whole thing, this experiment that I was looking at, I was like kind of like looking and see how people define it for themselves. When you throw a word out like truth, like what happens to people? I think
it pushes a lot of buttons, man.
And it wasn't
definitely. It definitely pushes a lot of buttons, because truth is relative. It's relative to your upbringing, your culture, what you've read, what you believe. It's why my response to you was not a straight answer. My response to you was actually a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Because truth is relative, and information shifts even in science and math and history. Every time I turn around, now we have Common Core math as a new way to do math, right?
Yeah.
You know, for some of us that's heresy, but
I can't figure it out. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me,
But whatever, that's my point, is there's a lot of information. So we live in a world today where we are drowning in information, right? Mm-hmm. And we become, one of the things that I realized is people become very committed to believing information, even from the first time they hear it, without necessarily investigating it, validating it, just because they heard it from somebody they think is an authority. And one of my comments to you was, what is authority A's superpower over authority B? And they have the same background and same expertise and same knowledge, but they have a different perspective or a different response.
Yeah. And then how far are you going to, yeah, exactly. And so, okay, so I'm going to start investigating, person A, because I just absolutely believe person B. Like, that's my guy. I know him. But I'm going to go deeply investigate person A so I can find out information that I can discredit B, or I can discredit that person because I'm just going to validate mine. And
I think that's awesome to go and maybe even have an attempt to discredit. Look how many people start to believe something that they went to discredit initially. And I've watched that in religion a lot, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we were talking about sports earlier, like Willman was talking about, basketball or soccer. And if you don't like the outcome, you're in the middle of a basketball game, a soccer game, a tennis game, and you don't really like the score, you might start making up some stories. I know, like, yeah, you're cheating, or, I don't, there's always
you fouled
something.
Me.
What's that?
Oh, you fouled me.
And the ref and the ref missed it. So is it true or not true?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even replay.
Yeah. What's interesting about that is that there was a friend of mine whose brother was a referee, a professional referee. And this was about 15 years ago. And I never really hung out with referees. They were always these, anonymous things in unusual uniforms. And
referees were anonymous things in unusual uniforms.
Yeah. And I never really related to them as a person in a situation that basically had a lot of whatever the whistle was, whatever the call was, would basically incite, arrows coming your way. Either, like, it was always going to be 50% of the people were going to obviously either be fine with it or totally hate you. And when I went to dinner with these guys, I really got to see that they just have to make a decision.
Yeah.
And it's not even that they make the right one, but they have to go with the one they made, because if they start backing down on it, it's just gonna be insane. After they blown the whistle, it's just gonna, like, how can you imagine? It's like you're in the World Cup, you blow the whistle, and you realize right away you've made a horrible mistake, but you really can't go back on it, because then you're really gonna get lynched. But then half the team really, the other, half the people hate you and half the people love you regardless of which way you blow the whistle. And at the end of the day, the only thing you play is not the foul. What I tell my players now is the referee calls what he decides, period. It's not the truth that it was a foul. It's not the truth that it wasn't a foul. The truth is that they make a decision, and that's the one we play. Period. It's not even right. I don't have to. And the only ones I complain about, the ones I don't get.
Yeah.
Like, if I push you over and I get the ball, I don't sit there and go, ref, that's the wrong call. I totally fouled him. Here, give him the ball back. I don't do that. I'm like, shut up. You're being a baby. I just took the ball from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you only ever complain when you don't get the call.
I agree. I'm a soccer mom, and I have definitely watched many bad. I've watched many bad calls in my favor.
Right? Yeah, and it's like, I'm not going to say that was unfair, because I got it. And so at this point, I just figure the referee, we play with the referee calls. There's no truth.
Which is what life is too, right? Because we that's what life is. We have to play that. Like, you can go to school and that's right. We play the call, and whether it's at school or at work, you can follow the rule book at work or at school, and then somebody calls an audible, right? Or somebody interprets a policy the way they want to for whatever reason. And you have to go with it. You have to shift through it. And so I do think, going back to what you said about the question being thought-provoking and creating a lot of conversation, there is zero right answer to what is the truth. There just isn't. And I think that's why, I think one of the things you and I have in common, Martina, is the whole curiosity. I talk about curious conversations a lot, because I'm not a black and white world girl. I like to see, I like to pull back the layers of the onion. I like to go in and understand the perspective, because we are all egocentric in the sense that our decisions, how we respond to things, is based on the center of our universe, right? It's our, and it could just be our emotions that day. It doesn't even have to be our belief system. It could just be, I'm having a bad day, and it doesn't matter that I think this way 90% of the time. Today I'm having a bad day. I'm going to be that ref that makes a bad call.
Yeah. And
now somebody looks at me, and they have to, Willman, they have to go with it, right? They have to respond to what I just dished out, good or bad. And so it's not about truth. It's about response and flow. And
hey, Bill, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm good. I'm just enjoying the conversation. And one of the things I one of the images I really enjoy using in reference to the discussion about truth is a picture of a cylinder, and there's two lights that are shining on this cylinder, and one shows a true image of a square on one side, and the other one shows a true image of a circle on the other side. And it's just the perspective in which this cylinder is being seen from. So the projection is true, but it's not the truth, which is what the cylinder is. So, like, for example, if I take a look at the word fairness, so fairness is in the center of the circle, and a true version of fairness was one person is the tax rate is this number, and the true for this other person is the tax rate is this other number. Now, they're both true because the person's is seeing it from that worldview. But the truth is really regarding the word fairness. What does fairness look like? So if somebody that is wealthy might say, fairness looks to me like only a 12% tax rate. Yeah. Meanwhile, fairness to another person is like, why am I getting dinged at 35% and I'm in middle income land? You know, so the adjustment of how we see things is really trying to get our brain to look at what the cylinder issue is, whether it's fairness or respect or consideration or a mutual cooperation. Because if we're not looking at that, then we actually can't have as much of a healthy discussion. It's just like, no, I'm true. No, I'm true. No, I'm true. And then all of a sudden we start shooting verbal words at each other, and and then it just doesn't go very well.
I would love to play off of that and
sure.
reference. I love that example, and it
example.
reminded me of, I used to run a real estate office, and we were taking office pictures, team pictures and everything, right? And our colors were red and black. And we decided everybody would show up with the primary color red. Do you know what 47 people show up with the color red? Like how many shades of red?
Right.
And so to me, that's
burgundy,
always been an excellent example of
canary.
truth. Even if you don't go to burgundy
rose,
or pink, even if you stay in red,
right.
Look at when you're trying to create a meme and you're picking which color background you want on Canva, right? How many reds are there? So I think it's a great way to compare truth to the color wheel, because within red there are, somebody could probably tell us an exact number, but say 2,000 shades of red.
Okay, so I've got a really unsettling fact for all of us here online about the word truth and colors. Do you know that 35% of women are genetically predisposed to see a wider color range than all the other human beings around? In other words, women are genetically set up that they can see a wider range of color. And it's so unsettling because I might throw a shirt on,
what it is,
and and what happens is that it's a blue shirt, and I'm sorry, it's aqua with a shade of gray. It's like, right. oh my, and they're right, but where my eyesight is saying this thing that it's not really fully true. It's not the truth because there's an unfair advantage of color, of the color wheel. Anyways, so there's just a little genetic tip that 35% of women have that extra skill.
No, I have an opinion about that.
You do?
But check it out. It's not like a shitty one, but just more like I've recently just sort of gave it this thought came to me that women have certain capabilities that had to have been developed over thousands of years of having been abused. So they had to be more aware and more perceptive about everything in their environment in order to survive basically our brutality. And so in that sense, they had to develop those kinds of skills. So they probably would have to be more accurate knowing what color it was because it could get him killed. That's been my
Deep
recent
thought.
thing,
Interesting.
right?
I think it was tracked to berry color, so they weren't eating the wrong poisonous berries. I think that was the deselector. But yes, but the need for safety is really, William, what you're really talking about here: safety and protection for women, and that extra sensitive that, and also genetically too, or physiologically, is that the bridge between the right side of the brain and the left side of the brain, the corpus callosum, is 20% larger in women. They have greater access to language than men do. And that is something that's very unsettling, that there's this language access or access to emotion too, that there's an access to emotion that men don't have as much. They have the 4-lane highway and we have the little creaky little mountain road of trying to cough out an emotion when we're, how are you doing? Fine. Are you doing sad? Upset? It's like,
Yeah. I'm
and
all
there's
right.
Yeah, but I mean,
let's get back. Actually, let's get back kind of more narrowed down the
those
topic.
are, you know what? But what he just said are actually great examples of truth.
Okay.
I'm fine. I'm sad. I'm hungry. A man's version of truth with those words versus a woman's need for 27 to 500 words for the same response.
It's a perspective. That's the perspective.
It is a perspective.
Yeah,
and so we Mars and Venus, we receive truth from our perspective, and whether again it goes back to being gender, culture, life.
Yeah. So let's look at kind of move on to another part of that. So let's say there's a truth out there, like a truth is said. Okay. How do you know it's true? Like, where does it occur? Does it occur in your body? Is it occurring in this mind that we talk about? Like, where is it occurring? Like, where's the decider? Where's the switch that says that's true?
I think even that's relative, because what we have to do is we have to survive. We have to exist. And I think that everything, absolutely everything is filtered through, will this make my life better or not?
Physiologically is.
And so really what it comes down to is your ability to create problem solutions, to create solutions to your problems of survival. And the people that are doing better have better, they're computing at a much better level of how it is to survive. And the truth is the majority of society or humanity doesn't really have good computational abilities to survive. Otherwise they'd be doing a lot better with resources. And I don't know if it's any different than that. Like, we could talk about spirituality, but we're human beings trying to eat, trying to have sex and procreate and, have a good time. And if we can do those things better than the other guy, then we have a better sense of truth, sort of.
Yeah, Tammy, what you were about ready to say something. I was about ready to.
So
you were going to talk. So was I. I was breathing in heavy, but you were ahead of it.
Rock, paper, scissors, man. Rock, paper, scissors. Who
Go
goes
ahead,
first?
Bill, go ahead.
So I'm just going to go in here and
please.
Okay, so one of the things. You're talking about procreation. With that comes children, right? And I don't know how many of you have children, but with children come everybody you know's opinion, right? They're facts. They're facts, they're truths on how to raise your baby, whether it's your mom, your in-laws, your grandparents, your friends, your siblings, the mailman, like everybody who could be the dad. Everybody has
the mailman.
Everybody has
an opinion,
wisdom. And so, like, when I had my children, and I'm the oldest of 6 kids, I already knew a little something about raising some kids, but I hadn't had my own yet. And I got all these opinions. And one of the things that I found was, what resonated with me? What did I feel good about? What did I feel like I could sleep with myself at night that I would, and guess what? I kept failing forward through a lot of that, like I do in much of life. And so to say, if somebody puts something out there and it's a truth, okay, so I'm a firm believer the best skill you can teach an infant is sign language. Does that mean it's a truth? For me, it is.
Yeah,
for me, it is a truth, because I empowered my children to communicate months before most children speak a word.
Yeah.
And so I think communication is one of the superpowers to accomplishing what you want to in life. right? So effective communication. So instead of like my children never threw temper tantrums, I attribute that to they could always communicate what they needed or wanted. So for
Isn't that
me,
what a
sign
temper
language
is?
is the truth.
Isn't that what a tantrum is?
Communicating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's the need for communication. Absolutely. It's the it's I'm not being heard the way I would like. I'm not getting the choice that I would like. I'm not getting the support I would like.
Not being respected.
As a part of it. Yeah, those
Yes,
are things.
yes.
So the Martine, to get back to the question of where does it show up in your body, one of the biggest things for me that I've kind of work on the emotional and the connection between emotions and language. So there's 297 neuropeptides in the body, and these molecules of emotion slosh around all the time. So
Wait a minute. What are neuropeptides?
They're like molecules of emotion. They're like cortisol and adrenaline and acetylcholine. All these molecules of emotion. They tell us about what's happening. So if we're cold, then we need some warmth, right? And so the need for the need for truth, because we all have a need for truth. Doubt, the feeling of doubt, is a direct indicator that we're not getting the truth that we like. Now, our truth might be wrong.
The feeling of doubt is a direct indicator?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I got it.
So
I just want to get that. Okay.
The feeling of doubt is a direct indicator that truth is not taking place inside you.
You just said that you're not receiving the information you want.
It's not my belief is saying this is true. Then I feel doubt because it's not what I'm hearing is not true.
It's not. There's something off. We have
something off.
Something's off here. Yeah.
Right. So some of our emotions are like direct, easy ones. Like I feel tired. That's a measure of serotonin and dopamine. And I need rest. That is a direct relationship. Tired, rest. Everybody gets that. Hungry, food.
Mm-hmm.
Scared, safety. Everybody gets that there's a relationship between scared and safety. But the nuance one is I feel doubtful about truth. I feel skeptical about trust. Those are nuanced, because if I'm in a room and somebody says, or I'm somebody saying some BS to me, I'm going like, I don't know about that. I'm not sure if I could trust that.
Yeah.
Or boy, that fact was off. I feel doubtful about that fact. So it's a little weird that certain language patterns are activating certain emotional things. So like curiosity is a great emotion, because it's going like, well, I have a need for discovery or understanding about something. And I better follow that. Yeah. Because that's going to lead me through and out of the dark days and stuff. I'm just plugging your book now, if that's okay with you. Is that it's getting curiosity in the front of the list as one of our strongest emotions that we can use, because that can lead us into really what can make a big difference. So that's my little piece on where does it show up in the body.
Yeah, Bill, cool. I have a question on that. If I've watched many people not know what they don't know, and they are almost at position neutral, 0, right? As opposed to being kind of uncertain and hesitant, or being confident. They don't know what they don't know. They just heard some new information. It's especially like in marketing, right? Say like commercials. Kids watch commercials and they're like, "Oh, mom, look, this toy can do this, this, and this."
Totally
buy the 7 other parts.
Totally triggered.
Yeah.
or you go to a conference because you're all excited becoming a real estate investor, and you go hear somebody at the front of the room say, "If you run to the back of the room right now and sign up for $97,
that's
you're
so
going to
unsettling.
get A, B, and C." But some people are like, they're like, ooh, and so like, but is there truth in there? Is, sometimes with that toy might be 80% true in what it can do.
Let
Right.
me respond to that. I know it's your thing, Bill. You know what I heard you say earlier, and how I interpreted what you said when you were talking about, and I kind of was picturing like a maybe like a light shining on the wall, like, so that is light. On the other side, it could be dark. It's dark over there. So is the room light or dark? It's all perspective. And then I think when you start talking about like toys and things like that, what I see is that somewhere inside of us we find balance or not balance. And then, so where do you find position neutral? I think that often happens because that the language that we have isn't sufficient to figure that out. And but it doesn't necessarily lend us to like the doubt or to the skepticism or to the belief. It oftentimes, like, we don't have the languaging to maneuver what's in front of us. And I think there's a lot of things that are in front of us that we don't have the languaging to maneuver through. And as we get older, as we start to learn stuff, we then develop language, because like Willman said, it's about survival. How do we survive? Well, some language isn't important because I don't play soccer, so I don't need to know the language of soccer, but I do mortgages, so I need to understand that language because that's about survival.
Very different worldviews, and our language fails us on multiple levels because it escalates conflicts. That's actually, kind of like in my wheelhouse. Is like, I'm the guy that does high conflict mediation. I come into a room in a city council meeting or fly to Flint, Michigan during the water crisis and train people about, hey, you're going to have some angry people. You better know what to say, not to piss them off worse than the tragedy that just showed up for them. And the hard part about it is that the language of judgment or criticism or labels and diagnosis makes it more violent for us to be in the world. And it's just so unsettling just to listen to the volatility that's coming up. And I like your toy example or the real estate example, run to the back of the room. The person sitting in the chair feeling hesitant, nervous, anxious, and then what keeps them in the chair is doubt. What gets them out of the chair is going like, oh, I think I can afford it. And they run back and they buy the thing and then they don't use it. Just saying.
Yeah, true.
That's true. Thank you for that little. It's like they've been baited. Their emotions have, they've been sold the possibility. It's called an anticipatory sale. I am going to give enough anticipation about what this toy can do or what this training program's going to do, and I'm on the hook. Yeah. Like a fish. I'm drugged to the back of the room because I can't wait for the 7 steps of real estate investing to be fruition, and all I got to do is, and a week I'll be there. It's like, it's not exactly true. It's like actually true.
But somewhere in there, we decided it was true. Somewhere we decided that, and we might not have decided it was true.
It's possible.
It's possible. Like we went in the direction.
Possibly. Yeah. It's
true for someone, and it could be true for me too.
Right. That's that one. And it could be, so the phrase is, Tammy, that's a great phrase. It could be true for me is called an uncertainty sentence. And that actually raises dopamine inside the body anytime you put it in there. And there are different politicians and different folks and salespeople and marketing people that do those magic 3 things. They give us a reward, they give us anticipation, and then they throw some uncertainty because this thing's going to be gone in 24 hours or else it's going to be never to be found on the internet. Scarcity is a part of uncertainty. That's right. And we take it, and we take the hook, and we bite the shiny lure. Then that becomes okay. So then the part of that what that shows me is that, let's say I say this is true, and then I now use what I say is true to get something. Like I'm going to create like the thought that what I'm going to say, this is all true, and then I use the truth. That at the point that you use the truth, is it still the truth, or does it become a tool? Does it become something else?
Wait, can you say that one more time?
Okay, so I say something. I'm going to talk about my product, my real estate course, my whatever, the toy. and I'm going to talk about that. But once I can talk about it, like it's red, it's square, like these are facts, and it's true that it's this, and it can
Right.
make people money. The minute I start doing like what Bill was saying, like this, the manipulation, the clothes, all that, you're no longer, that's no longer truth. That becomes something different.
No, I think if I agree with you, then we have a truth. We have a common truth.
Yeah.
If I don't agree with you, we don't have a common truth. And I don't think it's any more complicated than that.
I think it's real basic. You got it.
Yeah, you come to me and you go, hey, man, I got this car. It's beautiful, man. You're going to need it. It's going to get you, love and success, and you're going to feel confident. If I look at you and go, you're an idiot, dude, I don't agree with that, then we don't have a common truth. It just doesn't matter what you say to me. But if I look at you and I go, whoa, yeah, oh, man, now you and I are just going to come way up in terms of our mutual affinity for each other because we have a common reality.
Connection is very high.
Yeah, I've gone into agreement with that. Just like, some people think, like you were saying, like in the real estate language, you don't really have to be really fit. You don't have to be the fastest. You don't have to be the strongest. As a professional athlete, your survival skills depend on your reaction time physically, your ability to endure, your ability to play under pressure. Every environment, every element that we exist in requires, a certain skill set, and our truths are based on those necessities. And how good we're able to execute them and distinguish the ones that we need and the ones we don't need.
It's kind of funny. Like as you're speaking, I'm it's kind of in the back of my head is like, why do we even need the truth then?
Well, I think we need a healthy discussion for truth to get two really important things.
Okay, got it.
Certainty and stability. You've got to like get, if you don't have a honest discussion about truth, then stability is not really there and certainty isn't really there. So like, anything from climate change to whatever major issue you would like to put in there, to take on the biggest issues, racism, abortion, just to put some really tough things in the environment. It's like if somebody, calls you a name and says you're a racist, what do you do with that? Because they're stating a label as a truth, and really the most effective response is to be compassionate to the person that's calling you that, because the sentence "No, I'm not" does not work.
It doesn't have,
it doesn't have an effect. So you actually gotta bring, compassion to get to the center place, so that at least you got a shot at de-escalating the conflict, because otherwise it'll go south from that moment. there's violence right around the corner.
Absolutely. And that's what I was saying. So then you say, like my truth is, so-and-so's a racist, and I live as though that's true. And then I use my truth to like attack you. It then fails. It fails the truth. It fails as like that no longer is the truth, unless I'm with Willman and we agree about that. Now there's two of us agreeing.
Now your truth is validated.
Exactly. So now I'm going to go like, well, Bill, this is what Willman and I said. You're like, and that's the thing. It's just like you use language, and then you use that which Willman said, which was agreement, and it comes together. And
well, there's four compassion. There's many compassionate responses, but there's four really workable compassionate responses. Depending on the situation, it's the compassionate response might be, could you be feeling aggravated because I haven't provided you respect, or I'm not speaking to you in a respectful way? See, I'm trying to find out what's beneath the word racist, because otherwise, whether I am or not, you've already called me it, so I'm already painted with it. So
excuse me, but like right there, you're kind of in a quandary, because you don't know where the person's coming from. You don't know their background. You don't know if they've been abused a lot.
No, you don't
have enough information on them. So really, it's like, that's like saying, I don't know. I look at it like I stepped on your toe and you're saying I broke it. Well, I don't know. You might have kicked the wall before you got here. And then you just,
Yeah,
didn't,
you don't,
and then I stepped on your toe. So now I'm the monster for stepping on your broken toe. I didn't know you stepped it, you kicked the wall. It's like I was just walking and there was your foot. So I don't, when you're meeting people out on the street and it's random and chaotic and really right now there's a lot of tribalism. A lot of tribalism has no logic in it. It's just pure instinct, pure medieval instinct. You lift a sword and I'm going to like either run or I'm going to take you out.
Yeah.
A tribal identity. You're women, you're right on target there. It's the need for identity, and people are fighting for a identity that has a huge limitation to it, but it's still their identity.
Yeah, I get it. No, I get it. But at the end of the day, what's going to make it, I think that life comes down to a couple things. Like, number one, what's my experience of living?
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I having a good one or a bad one? Right. And number two, am I able to, which kind of ties into the first one, and this is my opinion of it, is it my ability to make it better? But if I have the ability to make it better, I'm having a better experience of it anyway. So it all comes back to that.
Yeah.
And if I can make your experience great and other people's experiences great, in relation to that, we're going to have a better experience of living, like, whatever that is. Oh, we're going to go to the ice cream shop once a week, or we're going to make more money selling cars, or we're going to make money selling real estate. Whatever that experience is, it comes down to my ability to survive and have a good experience. And when you talk about tribalism, man, that's just that's just kill or be killed. There's no other logic to it.
It's tough.
Right, yeah. I think there's definitely levels of logic inside of it. Not necessarily there's
tribalism.
I think so.
Really? If you come at me, dude, if you come at me with a big old bat that has nails on it, I'm not going to have much logic to it. I'm either going to attack you or I'm going to run.
I understand, but there's also the spectator's version of it. The spectator, like, well, you're not coming after me, you're coming after them, so I'm going to just step aside. It's all perspective. I mean, perspective is definitely part of it.
Yeah, I guess you can be a spectator, but you're going to have to take a side.
I don't know. I think there are a lot of people who don't take sides.
Yeah.
And I think
but you will
lot
eventually.
Of questions about truth.
Totally,
and
I agree with that.
I think that you don't have to take a side until it comes down to a significant enough pain point for you personally. But how somebody feels about abortion isn't really their problem until they have to deal with that personally, right?
Yes.
How somebody feels about rape, how somebody feels about death or euthanasia or
big
adoption,
or big topics.
Right.
The big stuff, yeah.
Big stuff, until you're in those shoes, you can have these opinions, but it doesn't mean you really are having to. You can be a spectator. You can totally be a spectator. I agree. But I also think there's so much about, it goes back to, I actually like the question you asked, Martine, a minute ago about is do you really have to find truth? Is there really truth? Is finding truth really the answer? Because maybe being curious and kind and bold enough to have curious conversations without judgment and recognizing people are entitled to perspective and to become more enlightened, because when the first time I met somebody, so I grew up in small town East Texas, and I go live in Denmark, and I meet this whole new world of people, right? They have a whole new version of transportation, of food, of topless beaches. So to them, going to the beach topless was normal. And to me, I was like, what are you talking about? And for them, it was a truth that everybody went to the beach topless and Speedos. And I was like, where's my one piece? And I need two of them, And so, no, it was just different truths. Yeah. And so there's so much about perspective. And I think one of the reasons I'm very curious is I have lived all over the world. I've lived all over the US. I'm not tribal. I don't sit in one tribe. I bounce in every tribe. I hop in and say, hey guys, what's up? And I'm an introvert and love to connect. Nice. But I'm authentic in every one of those groups because I love nutrition. I love real estate. I love curiosity. I like talking about history and political topics. And I like talking about a lot of things. Parenting, that's my favorite topic. So, but my business is in real estate. And some people have no idea my business is in real estate because I do so many things that I have great passion for.
Yeah. So, Martine, you asked a question a little earlier ago about the when you were online a little bit, and I was trying desperately to get on. You mentioned something about the 3 buckets of truth that because I put this thing out on the internet. You put this thing truth, and I go, well, there's 3 buckets of it, and for me, Tammy, I really enjoyed the conversation about going to different cultures, because that's like in the 3rd bucket called the belief bucket. Like there's all these biases, there's these fallacies, there's these worldviews of toplessness on the beach or not, or, Amsterdam with drug use and all that kind of things. And that one bucket of truth I find to be is the trickiest one, because you don't necessarily know, and you can't necessarily guess just because this person's from India, they're picking this set of beliefs or this set of beliefs or this set of beliefs. You're poking around in the dark a little bit about what part of the country they're coming from. And, there's just so many assumptions that are running around in our heads right now about this. You got to stay curious. You got to stay in observation. You got to back off judgment. Yeah. You got to drop what you think is true based on whatever culture that is, and you just got to go okay, I just can't take the bait on my limiting belief in that 3rd bucket. And the other 2 buckets are a little easier. They're a little simpler. It's like, there's a big difference between an engineer and a social worker. They just think differently, and they have different truths about the world. There's a big difference between an artist and a drill sergeant. They just think about things differently in the world. So those are called professions or preference truths, which is, hey, I think logically, so your interpersonal issues really think. Stop being so clingy. I don't want to hug and kiss so much. Yeah. And the other person's, why are you so cold and unfeeling? It's like, I'm an engineer. Leave me alone. I just have 3 friends. I'm not interested in connection. Right. So that preference truth is very different than the belief truth. And then the 3rd bucket, and Martinez, is what need is the person going for? And that is, what is the honest discussion about fairness? What's an honest discussion about respect? How can I cultivate mutual respect between all 4 of us right now? And so I gotta do some reaching, because I have no idea about how to best honor each of your own wisdom, knowledge, and experience. I gotta go, okay, take 3 steps back, let truth come to me a little bit, and ask some curious questions so I can get there. Or otherwise I'm gonna get hammered if I start with an absolute, as if all of us haven't stepped in this bear trap. You start with an absolute, and you're sitting and you're like, oh my gosh, I just, and that's not true. That's not true. Yeah. So those were the 3. I wanted to come around and loop around, because I know that you had mentioned that. It's just getting used to where is the person coming from, and then just trying to back off of it a little bit. And that should give us a little bit of fodder to throw around, because all of us are coming from these different places, and all of us have different backgrounds and teachers and different ages. It's like, as an old guy, I'm coming out of, the disco 70s, for God's sake. Come on, it's, there you go. That was me in college. That's so unsettling. That see how that works.
What I hear is kind of like the common thread, and I don't think anybody has said it directly, but I think we've all displayed that, is that the value of truth, separate from our own truth, is learning other people's truth is how we connect. And then doing something with it. We don't necessarily have to do anything with it. Like, so Willman says, agreement, like you get the agreement. So you have somebody say, hey, we both agree. All right, great. There's connection right there. Tammy was talking about some of the stuff you were talking about, and you get connection from there. When you buy something, it's like, oh, I connected with that. There's a truth, and I connected with that. It's a place to connect with other people. And then, Bill, I think for probably about 30 minutes, you've been talking about solutions to conflict, solutions to when truth is, in my opinion, kind of being used, or maybe things are being thrown at you. So if I
was
call
going to do hijacked. I was going to say hijacked came to my head, but truth is getting hijacked a little bit. It just is,
Yeah.
and then all you got to do is hijack it, find a marketing message, repeat it, and see how many fish you can catch in the net. And then if a couple of fish get out, you throw another net out, and you create that. And that's
Are you
upsetting
talking about the current media situation?
Yeah.
When you say the truth is getting hijacked.
But that's also survival, right? If you advertise, it's survival too. Like Willman said, survival, because
I don't know, but sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm coming up with something, so I'm selling something. So I call it XYZ and say, this is how the toy works, and this is how it all works. And then oh shoot, I sold a whole bunch of those. Let me do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to sell a product on two different things. Number one, the idea that it's going to make your life better. Number two, it actually does.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But your ability to communicate that to somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but, with the current situation, to say that the truth is getting hijacked, I don't know that the truth has ever really been given. It's always been a slanted view.
Yeah.
Whoever's in, like they say, history is written by the victors.
It's a partial view. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I don't know, go back to the 60s and Walter Cronkite was doing the news. That was a viewpoint, you know what I mean? And it was based on certain things. And, now we have a different viewpoint, only now we have enough access to competing viewpoints. And there are people that are playing this game called divide and conquer, and they're doing a good job of it. The way I see it, the United States is really 5 different countries, just because geographically that's how we kind of are molded. You've got the East Coast, you've got the South, you got the Midwest, you got the West Coast, which is mostly 3 states. And then you've got like the interstates between the Midwest and the West, like, Montana and those guys in the middle, Colorado, like those guys aren't really the West. So we have these different regions, and our thinking is based on, I don't know. I mean, in a very basic sense, it's very geological. Why are we more laid back on the West Coast? Because we don't have really brutal weather.
And don't forget
the outliers. Yeah, the outliers. So,
are you an outlier, Tammy?
No, sometimes.
Tammy's a gypsy, dude. Like,
total gypsy.
Tammy is a total gypsy. That's why she goes from one tribe to another.
I like to say hi and see what food you're serving today.
Right.
Very nice.
Dance a little. What kind of music you got?
Yeah, exactly. And she's, but at the end of the day, we have to survive in groups.
Yeah.
Like we need a community to survive.
I agree. We find
absolutely.
Our community.
Yeah. So wherever that is,
So the truth is automatically being figured out for itself, for our survival, for our connection. And then the kind of like the wiser we get, the more we can manipulate it or use it to our benefit. We can survive or thrive more effectively.
We have this. I have to joke with you all the time. Do I have enough grain for the winter? And do I have enough furs for the winter? And that's ultimately what it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with that right now.
We are.
Because we live in a way where we don't have enough grain for the winter and we don't have enough furs, and we're getting hit with that. And because, I hate to say it, but, we just fuck around a lot. As a society, we do. We just blow a lot of shit up, that's like stupid. It's nonsense. It's like, listen, man, is it making your life better? Because, when you go through a hard time, are you going to have enough money to get through that? Are you going to have enough people and resources to get through that? Because that's really what's going to happen,
Yeah. And where are we letting things happen? Where like Tammy said, and where are we neutral about stuff?
Yeah,
Something going
that's
on over
Yeah.
there
part of it.
in the country. It doesn't affect me if a bunch of people are getting killed in other countries. So
Yeah.
I can be neutral. I just don't need to think about it. I need to
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
I hear that from people all the time. I'll share some information in a conversation and it may start out casual and then like, what? Tell me more. And then 6 months later, we revisit that conversation because something more personal has affected that person where they
Yeah.
relate to it more. And they said, I knew this, but it didn't affect me then. It didn't matter then. One of the things I just want to throw out there, I think from a truth / curiosity / lack of judgment perspective is I personally adopted a rule for myself very early in life. I am very curiosity based. I will ask a lot of questions, or I grant people a lot of grace because I don't need to throw rocks at glass houses. I just don't, because I don't need them throwing them at mine. But I've tried to approach life with like whatever it is I do, I don't have to agree with somebody, but I'm willing to hear their perspective and have a respectful conversation and dialogue. And I'm always better for it. I always take away nuggets or wisdom, even if it does not represent who I am. I have a greater appreciation for that culture or that tribe or those people or them personally. And I try to never leave anything. Like, I don't want to, I have this policy. I can't put words out into the universe with malice behind them.
1 minute.
Okay. And so for me, I think one of the things I'm watching in the world today is there's a lot of hate or venom or judgment, and maybe it's fear-based, maybe it's insecurities, maybe it's culture, maybe it's that we have a lot of keyboard warriors because we have a lot of avenues we have a lot of avenues to collect and share information, but it's not like the old days where our forefathers. I love going to Philadelphia or Boston or DC and going into some of these old buildings where our forefathers, you want to tell me they didn't argue with each other over who was going to be president or whether or not there was going to be a revolution or, so that you want to say but I think they were more willing to have a healthy conversation and still walk away, may or may not be friends, may or may not have dinner with each other. Occasionally somebody got shot, but overall, like today, I'm grateful they had those conflicts, right? The series of events led to the freedoms we have today. So
I've got another appointment I've got to get to. I've so enjoyed this conversation. Let's do it again, okay?
Appreciate you hanging out.
Wow, Bill, thanks for bouncing, man.
All right.
It was great,
Thanks.
Bill.
Right. Thanks, Bill.
Talk to you soon. Thanks,
Bill.
Bye.
Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Anyways, I want to make sure that we kind of stay like as close to an hour as we can. I just think that find that more people watch the video when we stay closer to an hour. But I'd love to have you guys, all three of you guys back on, and we can do have a different conversation. How about we do just a couple final words? You got something to say to wrap it up, and then I'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Well, let's do ladies first.
I liked what one of I forgot who said this. The truth will set you free. I like that. I just think we have to remember that it's not necessarily everyone's truth, and I hope that our truth set us free to live our most excellent lives.
That's cool. Woman.
I think when it comes to truth, I really stop expecting it to be one way, and I just. I look at a situation and I look at the other person's experience, and then I try to interlock our different realities. And that's given me a much more peaceful coexistence with my fellow man.
That's cool.
Instead of trying to like enforce or find one way, or do they have the way or do I have the way? It's like, I don't know, let's find something else, because the truth is such a hot button. And it's never really gotten me anywhere. It's never gotten anybody anywhere with me either. It's like, so I think it's just it's a very organic thing that you just have to be constantly open to.
I love what you guys have all said. I was thinking, we could have had the topic about cars, and everybody would have brought whatever they would have brought in. We talk about truth, and the same thing happens. Like, everybody brings in like their viewpoint and what they're about in their life and how they approach life. And that's always going to follow. I mean, how we were raised and what we were committed to, and how we navigate through life, whatever that winning formula is that we have to get through life, and whatever points we are trying to hold on to, and whatever we're trying to figure out, it's always going to come out. It's always going to come to the surface. So if we talked about cars, somebody might talk about a 65 Mustang, somebody might talk about a van, somebody might talk about a convertible. I mean, just who knows where it goes. So we talk about truth, and you can look at all the comments, and they just come from all kinds of different perspectives. And I think what you guys, I don't think Willman said this. He said it a different way. He talks about survival, and I love that. It's like survival, and this is what I do in order to eat, in order to to get to where I want to go, which is natural. And then Bill was talking about solutions. How do I work through solutions when you go to a meeting for the city and everybody's going to get mad at the leaders? There's so much to it. So it doesn't matter what topic we're going to ever talk about. I think the thing is that we're all going to bring who we are to the conversation, and I think we're going to bring what we believe is true, like how we think the truth is.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely.
It's all perspective, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the question is, does your belief and does your truth actually make things better for yourself and others, or does it not?
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
You can fight all you want for it, but
yeah, some of us will kill for it,
Yeah.
So I want to thank you guys for hanging out. I really appreciate it. Tammy. It's so good to see you. It's been a while.
I know.
More. And Willman, I love you to death, and I can't wait to have you guys. I'm glad you guys hooked up, and let's do it again. I'll come up with another fun topic.
It'll be great.
Awesome. Thank
all
you.
Right. Bye.
Take care. Bye. Hey, everybody. Thanks.